Hello, and welcome to Journeys with PDA Coffee Chat podcast. I'm Heather.
And I'm Kerissa. Thank you so much for listening and hanging out with us today. We have a really special guest who is joining us all the way from Germany, and we are so excited to have you here with us. So, first off, we would love for you to pronounce your name so that everybody knows exactly how to say your name here in America, and then go ahead and just kind of tell us about yourself.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the introduction and for the invitation. I'm really excited to be here with you today. My name is Rike Brand. I'm a nonfiction author and a mom of two. I live in Germany, as you can probably hear. And I think I started my career actually as a startup entrepreneur. I co-founded two tech startups here in Munich, actually. But then when I had my kids 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago, I transitioned more into a freelance writer's role. And I actually co-wrote or wrote several nonfiction books in the business area. So all about startup, sales, marketing, financing. And then, my personal journey with my family led me to the topic of PDA. And that's how I, ended up starting my next book project on PDA. It's called Parenting PDA. The first version of my book appeared in Germany last year in July. And actually, it's been quite successful. It was the first book in German that was published about the topic of PDA, that really addressed PDA from like the scientific side, but also as a guidebook for new parents, covered this entire journey with PDA. And it came out also in a translated version this spring called Parenting PDA. And I'm excited to chat about the book and everything else PDA today with you.
Yay. And we noticed that the foreword to your book was written by Amanda Diekman, who is a friend.
Right.
She's a friend of Journeys with PDA. She has been, she's been a friend to Journeys with PDA, and we've actually had her as a speaker on two of our retreats. So that is exciting in itself.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really a big fan of Amanda. So excited when she
Yeah.
agreed to write the forward for the international edition. Yeah,
Amazing.
really cool. Hmm.
So, what can you tell us? What drew you into the world of PDA? Either personally, professionally, both. What is your inspiration?
Yeah, so about PDA, I guess most people they who are not really like therapists or psychiatrists, they come across PDA like by chance to their own children, and it was the same for me. I had my older child in 2019, and from the beginning, we didn't really have many problems in the sense that we had a lot of meltdowns or a lot of things that were really like something we would take them to the doctors immediately. But we noticed from the start that our parenting experience was much different than the parenting experience of the people around me. So for everyone else, everything seemed to be so much easier. So they could take their baby, toddler, child to party or to meet with friends, and then they could actually talk to their friends there instead of giving like 100% attention to their child. And these kind of things. So for me, I was basically looking from the start what was going on. I was researching a lot of social media or researching online. First, I found high need babies,
Mhm.
and so thought, okay, high need babies need to carry them around a lot, and they were happy, so no problems there for us. And then I started to get into this Instagram bubble of, neurodivergent moms, moms of neurodivergent kids. Found a little bit on autism, a little bit on ADHD, and nothing really seemed to fit. But then at some point, when our child was about 3.5 years old, I had this classic, probably classic light bulb moment when I came across a post, I think by Chrissy Ehrlich. And, she's really popular in the US and also in Germany. She's one of the probably most people know her who know about PDA. Yeah. And she had a post called Lost in Translation, where she translated like classic PDA behaviors into this PDA lens. Like, how could you recognize that? And so I found this post and I was like, oh, okay, wow. And that's the light bulb moment. And then I'm a person who, when they find something like this, they dive in deep. And I researched everything I could. Found a lot on social media, actually. So there were quite a few German creators, moms mostly, who shared their experience with PDA. And I found not so many websites, nothing in German, basically, almost nothing. And also not so much on websites internationally, because I feel, I don't know if it was the same experience for you, but most of the knowledge that is actually based on lived experience and not just on psychiatric classifications, you find it in forums, communities, on social media, bits and pieces everywhere. And so I put together my puzzle that way. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot more out there now than when we founded Journeys with PDA.
It changes every day. I mean, I'm happy about that. So much going on.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. So
I think we like, isn't that just like the classic story that we hear? It's the mom going like, what is going on? Like, something's not quite right, but you can't find this answer. And I mean, that's what I did. But then it's like, when you find PDA and you start to hear this description, you're just, it's like mind blowing. And you're like, oh my gosh, there it is. Like, here is this real thing. And so like, one of the things that you're talking about is like, you kind of couldn't find much about it, and here you are sort of alone. And like, that's how, I mean, that was my experience with PDA. Like, especially once I first found it, I was like, okay, now what do I do? What do I do now? And so for me, that was 6 years ago. And if I would have had like a book like this 6 years ago, where I could have, like, read through and had some guidance and also some validation in like what was going on was real, that would have been absolutely incredible. And so for me, I'm like so thankful that there's people like you who have the ability to recognize PDA and then actually be able to put it down into words, so that, those moms that are out there right now going, ugh, what do I do? Like, and it's always, as a mom, it's like, what did I do wrong? What am I doing wrong? Like, why can't I take care of this baby? And so to me, it's such a valuable resource to actually have that book to be able to read. And like, so incredible that you did the first German book. Like, wow, that is so amazing. And I'm so glad that, I mean, here you are in the middle of PDA life, and we're still able to be like, I can put this down and I can help and guide others.
And I'm in awe. I am just in awe that your children are so young, and that you are so much further. And I had no clue when my son was as young as your kids were. So what a gift that you're giving them to have discovered PDA, and then now you can parent them the way they need to be parented as kiddos with PDA.
Yeah, I
So,
think Kerissa, you summarized pretty well my motivations also for the book, because yeah, that's exactly how I felt in the beginning. That was my journey as well. So you have this light bulb moment, and then what? And you
right.
have so many questions, and everybody asks the same questions in the beginning. So basically, my job was to collect those questions and then find answers. And also, as you mentioned, Heather, I was in a really lucky position that we didn't discover PDA through burnout, which is another classic like way into this light bulb moment. But then you're already deep in the middle of it, and you don't have time to look left and right. I mean, fortunately, we didn't have to have this experience, but then you just want to help your kid and fix the family and just make it work somehow. And you don't, I mean, yeah, thinking about a book is not the first thing that you have on your mind in that situation. So I was like, okay, I have collected all this information. And right now we're in a good position, and I'm a writer. So why not, take all these like bits and pieces that you find everywhere. And I think the field has changed a lot. It changes like from month to month. Just a few days ago, actually, there is another book that appeared in Germany that is also by a PDA creator from the community, and it's last week I think it became a bestseller in its first week. It's about panda children. That's what he calls it. And so I'm just so excited because it will again help parents who are wondering about those questions in the beginning of their journey, like to just find the information on it and then have like a starting point to look deeper into the topic. So there's lots of things happening, and I think in general we're in a much better position than we were and you were 6 years ago, even before. I can't imagine. Must have been really hard.
Again, we talked a little bit before we started recording. There was academic kind of books. There were books for, the professionals out there on, how do we support kiddos in school? How do we support these kids in therapeutic kind of environments? But we didn't have a lot of parenting books out there for like just a guideline or just a, hey, this is what we're experiencing and this is what we've done. So you use the phrase on the book and as part of the title of your book of a highly sensitive nervous system. Mm-hmm. How would you explain what a highly sensitive nervous system is to a new family, a new PDA discovered family who is trying to figure this all out? Mm-hmm. What would your go-to definition for that be?
I think it's like, first of all, it's really hard to put PDA in like a one sentence definition, right? So I'm not sure
use
if
a
I
couple.
can do it that concisely, but then, I mean, the reason why I use this description about highly sensitive nervous system is that I wanted to kind of, first of all, get away a little bit from this discussion that at least we in Germany, we have on is PDA autism or not? Mm-hmm. And if you're in this entire, like, which kind of box do we put it in discussion? So I didn't want to go there at all. And I wanted to keep it open for parents who feel like, okay, this kid is highly sensitive in one way or the other. Might be high need, it might be autistic or not, but it's highly sensitive. And with PDA, I think highly sensitive nervous system, you can be highly sensitive in a lot of different ways. You can be sensitive to sensory experiences, sensitive in social interaction. But for me, as I see PDA, is a nervous system that reacts intensely to certain kind of specific triggers, especially I mean, that's where the name comes from. Demands can be one trigger, but I think one level below that is also, as Casey Ehrlich puts it, the losses of autonomy and equality. as a key trigger for all kinds of basically stress reactions. So PDA is like a highly sensitive nervous system that reacts with intense stress to these kinds of triggers. And then what makes it so confusing, unfortunately, from the outside is that the resulting behavior, what is visible from the outside, can be so different depending on the character of the child or adult or the situation in general. So an externalized PDAer might like equalize against their siblings, or if they perceive a loss of autonomy. Of course, there can be demand avoidance. That can be something that is quite visible from the outside. You can't tell them anything. They won't comply with anything. It's kind of oppositional. Sometimes it's not visible at all because the reaction is either internalized in forms of criticism towards self, or trying to be always best and always first, which can be a positive thing even. I mean, PDA doesn't always have to be like problematic in the sense of oppositional. Can also be the girl who's always first in class because it's so important to her that she's not losing the sense of like being above others. And sometimes, or oftentimes, especially with PDAers, of course, the stress reaction is masked until they are in a safe environment. So maybe sometimes, yeah, people from the outside, they won't perceive anything and they be like, what? This is a normal child. What are you talking about? And then they have these breakdowns at home, huge meltdowns, and they won't do anything anymore at all. So yeah, PDA is not always what it appears from the outside, but that's, in my view, why it's also so important that parents know about this and can interpret this behavior. Yeah, and I think it's really important to have this nervous system perspective because it highlights that PDA is not like behavior, like not a behavioral problem. It's something that is kind of instinctive and cannot be controlled by the child. Yeah, and it's not like a naughty child, as there's this TV show in the UK called Born Naughty. Yeah, it's not that at all.
I really like that framework. I love the framework that we shift families from thinking, what is wrong with my child, to what is my child experiencing right now? You know, what is it? What is, you know, what is they're experiencing, versus that whole, well, they're just bad. So let's figure out how to make them comply with what we would like to do.
Yeah, yeah. I think this understanding is so important because otherwise, I mean, the way we are taught to parent, that PDA runs so counter to this dominant parenting paradigm. So the natural way we're going is will always be in opposition to what the PDA actually needs. And I mean, the earlier you notice that and you shift your direction, the better. And then I think understanding it as something in the nervous system really helps you to also be like, okay, I can accept that it's this way, and now I have to deal with it, and we have to find a way to work around that, and then it can be great. So yeah, you can enter into a great relationship with your child, and you stop having this back and forth power struggle all the time.
I found once I started understanding that this was a nervous system issue versus a behavioral issue, it helped me, my nervous system. You know, just knowing and learning about how the nervous system works, how we need to have a regulated adult so we can have regulated children. I mean, it helped me on that level, in learning how to support my son.
Yeah.
It's so much about that perspective change and stepping away from, okay, this isn't about a naughty child, and it's about, you know, it's not because I'm a bad mom or I don't know what I'm doing, or I would always, you know, hear things like, well, if you just have more structure, or well, maybe you just need to be more flexible. You know, like both things like, well, you need more discipline, or why are you so harsh? And
Have
so
you
like
tried
so
a sticker
much,
chart? Have you tried a sticker chart? Have you
yeah,
tried a sticker
yes,
chart?
you know, so like that that's the things, you know, that I was told over and over. And then, but you're in this like really weird place of like none of the traditional parenting expectations, techniques, none of them fit. They just like, it doesn't work until you're like, well, what now? And then you find PDA, and the first thing you hear is like, well, you have to lower all the demands.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just like, what does that even mean? Like, how do you even do that?
Mm-hmm.
And so like the way that you're describing PDA as, okay, yes, you have to lower demands, but let's look at it as this very sensitive nervous system. And so that's where a lot of like, okay, is it demand? Is it environment? Is it internal? That's where, you know, looking a little bit deeper into what's really going on. And then having a book that can like outline that for you, and then say, once you take this perspective change, this is what you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's actually some part that was missing in so many of the books, or that kind of gets lost in the bits and pieces that you find on social media always, because yeah, many things focus on, or many pieces of content focus on like diagnostic criteria, recognizing PDA, and then you have the strategies on the other side, and there's this missing piece in the middle, because I think what makes PDA so interesting and fascinating also, but also so difficult to actually get into, is that you actually have to do this perspective change. What Casey Early calls a paradigm change. And I also have this chapter in my book, which is called Turning Point PDA, because I was actually thinking about, should I include this? I mean, is it too general, like go into general parenting paradigms? But it's actually, I think, key, or one of the keys that is needed to be able to deal with PDA in your family, is that you take a step back and not jump from, oh, I have this light bulb moment and now I have to apply like strategies and go into Panda and lower demands. And you're kind of like, okay, but how many demands? Like, do I have to go no demands or a little bit? And what is enough? What is too much? And you get lost in these huge lists of accommodations that are there. And that's why I also talk about parenting paradigms. And I use this image of the nervous system battery. You probably saw that,
Mhm.
which I personally came up in my everyday life, because it helped me to find like a way to take the, like, always go into this kind of dance of looking at my child, looking at how they are in the moment. Do they seem super stressed? And I can go with like no demands for today anymore. Or they seem like perfectly regulated and fine, their battery is full. And so I can decide, okay, they can take one or two more and we can try to do this outing, which will probably be stressful, but they have the capacity for it. So having some kind of framework to adjust like your daily life and the amount of accommodations that you do. And also to think about, when you think about a battery, you can think about a lot of ways to lower the load or the strain on the battery. But then on the other hand, if you never charge it, it still stays empty, right? So it also gives you a way to think about, okay, how can I plug it in? Like, how can I regulate my child so they get their capacity back? Just not enough to just lower the demands to zero, and then they don't have anything to regulate them in their life. So to give parents kind of a way to think about it, and to always stay in touch with their child, and figure out a way to find out what's the right thing to do right now or in this season. Yeah, that was really important to me, to fill this gap in the middle, to not get lost there. Yeah.
It really is like you have to be really connected in with your child and recognizing what they're experiencing, and it can be almost like minute by minute, hour by hour, you know, day by day. And that's one of those things that I think people kind of get stuck at, is they just want, like, okay, give me the 5 steps to make everything work. Well, you probably are going to do 100 steps in just one day, and then the next day it's going to be completely different. And you have to be so connected in and watching that child. And we talk a lot about people be like, well, they just freaked out, I don't know why. And it's like, well, nothing happened, they were fine. And so we're like, that is not true. Nobody freaks out for no reason all of this sudden. And that's where, like, watching that child and being connected in and understanding, you know, like I call them, like, in my daughter, like those red flag, like really teeny tiny indicators of, like, how much more room does she have, and like, when am I gonna be like, okay, like, no more, we're gonna have to, like, actively move into something that is regulating, like we're at the end, or like, okay, she's got some room, but it's learning those really teeny tiny red flags that come up beforehand, and then acting on that instead of trying to fix a big blow up.
Exactly.
And that's that part that I think people are, where it gets lost. So that's why I think a book like this, that really is like more of that practical, like, how can you look for the things in your kid? How are you going to walk through the day and knowing that whatever you did today, tomorrow's going to be different?
For sure. Yeah, it depends on from day to day. Can be different from child to child, can be different. And then within PDA, there's such a big spectrum. Like, I mean, you say like no two autistic children are the same, and it's the same for PDAers. I think there's a huge spectrum even within PDA. So, I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
So for the book, I interviewed 30 parents from the PDA community in the German-speaking countries, and I have their quotes distributed like throughout the entire book, because it was so important to me to not just tell my story and the story of my child and what I experienced personally, not just because my child is so young, but also the experiences are so different. And I really wanted parents to recognize their child in the different stories. So yeah, that it depends, and you have to learn the language new, I guess, for every child that you meet. But these are also skills, I think, that are great to know if you have anything to do, maybe professionally or in your private life with children, in any case. So I know this myself whenever I deal with children, like the friends of my kids, and I look at them and I have this thing where I'm like, okay, this is too much for you right now, and maybe we should step back a little bit on this, and too much going on here. But sometimes I feel like I'm the only one who has this perspective. I mean, we as PDA parents, we learn it the hard way, because the consequences, if we don't do it, are pretty drastic, or can be pretty drastic. And oftentimes I wonder sometimes when I see people like in school or in preschool, and they deal with kids and they just tell them stuff, and I'm like, wow, they do it, or the kids are really dysregulated, but they still are expected to do so much, like the children are expected to do so much. They should neatly line up and not be loud and not move around too much. And I'm like, wow, I think every child here would benefit from a little bit more of this nervous system perspective. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree so much with that. And like this perspective change it's like looking at kids as human beings, as people with
Hmm.
like a nervous system and needs. And so because I do have two children, one PDA, one not, both autistic, um a lot of the times people find PDA and then they find like, all right, here's this shift you need to make with PDA parenting. And they go, but what do I do with my other kids? And I'm
Hmm.
always like, actually, PDA parenting is really great for pretty much any human. And so there's also still that disconnect of like, well, I'm gonna parent a PDA or one way, but I'm gonna keep my traditional parenting with the other child, and so they're living in this conflict. And what we do is we parent based on the current nervous system needs of each child, which means we are pretty much just PDA parenting both of our kids. And I can see not only the benefit of it for my PDA, I mean, it's life saving, but then I can also see how incredible it is for my other child, because then you're starting to look at like nervous system and sensory and that battery that every
Hmm.
single one of us has. And then there's like this new level of perspective and respect as just like a human to this other child. And so um I'm like PDA parenting for everybody. Like it's just fantastic.
Absolutely, I agree, and I'm so glad that you say this and see it the same way, because yeah, if I could take like one core message of my book, it kind of be hidden between the pages, but that's exactly it. And you start to enter into an entirely new relationship with your children. And I can imagine, like, if you want to do it like a different way for your children, you're kind of like trying to reconcile two entirely different worldviews, and there has to be a clash at some point, because you cannot say like, okay, I'll treat you as a human being, and but you're like a child, and you're like a second rate human being. And I think that is kind of the secondary light bulb moment that you end up with when you parent a PDA. Or doesn't happen right away. It's not like as instant as this first light bulb moment. But then as you move into it, and then you start being like, oh, okay, yeah, this is why it works. And it actually makes sense. And then you start thinking about, okay, and people can treat their children in a different way. Is that right, actually? And you start questioning everything. So you kind of become your PDA yourself, because you start questioning like all those power relations in your life, and that you see all around you. And once you're there, I mean, life doesn't get easier, but at least you understand your child better. And it makes a lot of sense. And in that way, I think PDAs are quite rational. So they're kind of really good detectors for these underlying power dynamics in everyday life, and especially as children, this power dynamic between adults and children, that is almost like so invisible in like general culture. It's just accepted that you
Mhm.
treat children as children, and adults know better, and they have to like give the way and direct them through life, and tell them what to do. Yeah, if
I
once
think this way of parenting makes for more independent thinkers, more independence overall.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people, many people are afraid. many parents are afraid to give up that part of being a parent, not necessarily being that, I'm the boss, quote,
Mm-hmm.
and thing. We're going to do things. These are the rules. I'm the boss. This is how it works, that kind of thing. So it kind of goes into like, okay, so we have a family and they've been in crisis, because that's a lot of times that's how families find us, is that they're in crisis. So they come to us, we explain to them what low demand is, and they desperately want to implement, this low demand parenting style, but now they have all of these external factors that shouldn't matter, but they do matter. Like, they're being judged now by maybe their extended family, or they're being judged now by their child's doctor. They're being judged now by their child's teacher. What would you say to them? What would you say to these parents who are really struggling with, they're in that middle of that paradigm shift? Because we talk about that, we have that light bulb moment, right? Where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, holy cow, this is PDA. This is what we are dealing with. This. But then you have to have another second, you have to have a second light bulb moment where it's, I have to radically deconstruct how I parent. And
Mm-hmm.
it goes completely against social norms, at least in Western cultures. It goes against, societal norms. So how would you support that parent? What would you say to them?
I mean, it's a tough situation for
It is.
sure, because you have to deal with so many things and then you get the blame piled on top of that.
Mhm.
So first, everybody in that situation has my full compassion. It's really hard. I would say probably, so the most important thing, like in general for me, would be like to trust yourself
Yep.
and trust that what you perceive and how you experience your child in your family and your situation, that's real and valid, and nobody is able, I mean, it's just not possible for them to see it the way you do. So start there. And again, that's why I included so many quotes from parents in my book, where you can read up and you can just be like, even if you don't follow any of the strategies, but just reading what other people went through, and that you're not the only idiot who doesn't get it, kind of. um, I mean, just knowing this is so important. And then the sad truth is that so many people outside, they don't, I mean, from the side of professionals, it's really sad, because I think they should know better. And PDA has been around long enough, and there have been enough lived experience reports and enough studies on that to at least recognize that it's a thing. And yeah, we should actually think about how we can support those people, but also accept that people, extended family or friends, they they have no chance to understand it because they don't live it. And even within families, so from my interviews, I heard that oftentimes parents are in the situation where one parent, like the primary caregiver, understands PDA, is really ready to
Mhm.
embrace it pretty quickly, because of course they have this entire load. They don't see any other way except to try out this new lens and try out
Yes,
new
yes.
things. And then they have their partner who is maybe at work large parts of the day and doesn't actually have to deal with these minute to minute decisions and interactions, and they just take longer to make this paradigm shift. And it's nobody's fault really, but it is a lot of work, and it takes a lot of courage to actually take this other perspective. And um, not to be like, okay, you have to just be understanding of them and accept that they will never get it, but maybe be a little bit more patient and allow them a little bit more time to catch up, especially for those people where you really care about that they catch up, like partners or close
Mhm.
friends. But also accept maybe that other people maybe will never get it, and you will get to, like, you will have to say goodbye to some of the people. I think we all made this experience, who just every time we meet them, they'll be like, okay, but have to try the sticker jars. And with my child, it works if I say blah, blah, blah. I mean, yeah, good for you. But yeah, like save your energy and focus on what really helps you. And yeah, you're really in a tough spot there. And it really helps, I think, to connect with other parents, and what you do also with Journeys with PDA. Connect with people who understand you and validate your experience, and you're not alone, and then start from there. Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's great advice. And it's not as simple as saying, well, you don't get it, therefore you don't get time with us anymore, because we recognize how incredibly difficult that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be very, very difficult. Shifting just a little bit, you have a chapter in your book that deals with education. And we talk a lot about, or we have talked a lot previously in previous podcasts and just in the work that we do. And we try to help and uplift parents and support them through the educational process with their PDAers. What would you say? How would you like guide a family, a new PDA family, through the issues that they might be having at school?
That's a difficult one. Yeah, for sure.
Sorry.
And especially, no, I mean, it's difficult for everyone, and we have to deal with it one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, I think I mentioned it before we started recording that the German language version of my book is actually 100 pages longer than the international version, because in Germany we have this unique issue that we have compulsory school attendance, and we don't have any legal option to homeschool or do any education outside of school.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, yeah, I imagine that people from UK or the US, they can't even imagine what it's
No.
like, because with the PDA, or we all know the studies. There's just been a study by PDA North America that I think 70% of
Present
PDAers, they
access.
either can't access school, or they struggle like really hard. They have a really hard time going. Same thing in the UK. I'm pretty sure it's the same for kids in Germany, but they don't have the option of staying at home. So not even for medical reasons in the broader sense. You can get like a medical leave of absence from school if you go through like every other option before then. So you have to try all the therapies, like clinic schools, and yeah, people are really in a bind here, and families are struggling so much. Yeah, that's like one of the main issues. So having the option of homeschooling, or at least taking your child out of school for a while to get things to calm down, I think that's worth a lot. And I would really recommend to everyone to not shy away from that option if you have it. Because yeah, if you don't have it, I mean, we see here
Start
in the German
starting.
speaking countries what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Choosing to homeschool our son from public school, and we did not do it. We did it for a reason completely separate from PDA, but it was the first step in truly saving our family.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that you can't do that over there. I had no idea that in Germany you couldn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really,
That's
I think,
amazing. Wow.
yeah, it's one of the countries,
So,
I think, with the strictest attendance laws. Yeah. So having the chance to just give your PDA a break if you're really in a tough spot and they're nearing burnout or in burnout, that is an opportunity that's really worth a lot. And there are ways, of course, to advocate for accommodations. And yeah, you can, yeah, probably you need to find your way, your individual way, because from what I see, it's so, yeah, it depends so much from situation to situation, like what teachers you have in school, how understanding they are, the school in general, like how strict they are with their regulations and their inclusion policies. It can differ so much. And I think, especially for PDAs who are socially motivated and can deal with this because they want to go to school and they have kind of a special interest in learning. I mean, everything is possible. They can actually thrive in school if many of them are highly intelligent, and so they don't struggle too much with the content of what's taught. So it's more about like the social dynamics that are challenging, but there are PDAs who can deal with that. But if not, there's so many different accommodations that you can advocate for. And I would probably, if you are in this position where you're like, okay, this could make sense, we just need to, change the dynamics a little bit, try to just get in touch with the school, maybe to get a diagnosis if they need something like black and white to legitimize their accommodations. But try to find an individual way. Yeah.
I've got a follow-up question for you. Are you finding, and maybe you're not as immersed into the educational system in Germany like we are here in the United States, just because we've been doing this a long time, but we've been doing this for a while. Are you finding that the German education system is becoming more PDA aware and willing to provide
you see my face, right?
Those of you who are listening to this podcast and you're not watching it on YouTube, I'm going to go with a definitive no here. Like, okay.
Yeah, sorry to report. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess like
there's more work to be done. There's room for improvement is what we're saying. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean it to cut you off.
So there are, I think everywhere, obviously laws are different, but there are parents who do have situations where they feel like home education just is not an option. It might be a single parent who they have to go to work and you can't leave a 7-year-old home all day by themselves. And so there are certain circumstances where home education just can't work at that time. And so then always the next question is, what are the things that I should even be asking from the school to help my child? And this is I think this big piece with PDA that everyone's really stuck at, because you have parents and schools, laws, requirements, needs, how do you balance those things? And so you're in a position where your kids have to go to school, and because you understand PDA, you can advocate, you can make requests, you can try to work with the school, even if they don't understand what's going on. Here, where the state that I'm in the US, they don't understand. So it's not like I could go in and say, hello, I have a PDA child. Let's have your PDA program. And they're like, yeah, let's go. So what are some of those things, just like maybe those first few top steps that you would recommend for a parent to get going with the school system to maybe try to make school more bearable for your family?
Yeah, more bearable is probably the right term for that. I think one of the first steps that I would try to get to as soon as possible is get a diagnosis. I mean, at least in Germany, and I think it's still probably a little bit similar in the US and other countries, it can be hard to get like a formal diagnosis for a PDA because they often don't present in a way that psychiatrists would expect typical autistic child to behave or ADHD, and you kind of get these partial diagnoses, or you get these diagnoses that are kind of in the blame category, which is like, I don't know, ODD or
Mm-hmm.
emotional regulation disorder, these kind of things. But to have any kind of diagnosis, at least in the German system, and I guess it's similar elsewhere, is kind of the basic layer of getting any accommodations at all, especially when your child presents in a way that people won't understand otherwise what's going on, and that they have to have some accommodations. Because if PDAers mask in school and they appear perfectly fine, air quotes, then why have...
My son didn't. Let me just tell you, he did not. He does not mask. That mask was never on. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
Yeah. I mean, PDAers are different, so
it was
it's
his.
like
it's always
a challenge on top. Yeah,
I'm PDA. I'm PDA.
Well, in that regard, I mean, that's
Which
okay.
almost
You
made
don't
it
have to
easier.
contend with the...
It almost made it easier.
Mm-hmm. People
I didn't have to
recognize
explain
something
to
is
everybody
going on,
what was
right?
going on at home,
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well then,
sorry, I didn't. I had flashbacks to kindergarten for my.
Yeah. I mean, my PDA is similar, so people notice that something is going on, but then we still have the challenge of explaining what is going on, and what they see going on might not be what's actually going on. And I mean, there's so many layers of this onion to peel that it can be like a tricky road to go too far into that direction. So basically, getting a diagnosis is important to have kind of this basic reason for the school, for them to have acceptance that they have to change something or make some accommodations. But going too far down that road is also dangerous, because sometimes they get into this mindset of, okay, this is an autistic child, let's impose more structure and give them sensory breaks and make them more like stand out from the group by having all these things, which sometimes makes them even worse, and they don't want to accept that at all. So it's kind of going to the opposite directions. I think in general, it's really important, again, to look at your child and try to find out what would help them, and then ask for this specifically. Like, try to move away from general programs for autistic children and ADHD accommodations, but try to make like specific requests. Like, for example, I have a very shy child, so I will ask them, okay, please, can you not make them speak up in front of the group? Like, can we just agree on that, so I can tell my child, the teacher won't do this, you don't have to be afraid of this, you can relax in that regard and you can focus on other things. Like, ask very specific questions, like, or make very specific requests, so you don't, because it's also often a problem that you start going into these basic discussions and then you're like trying to explain PDA to them and they don't get it, because of course they don't have this entire mindset shift journey behind them, but they're like, what are they talking about? Why are they lecturing me on nervous systems and, autonomy? And of course everybody here has autonomy. What are you talking about? And so move away from those basic level discussions and just make specific requests, and try to shape the environment in your child's favor as much as possible. And hope for the best, and then move from there. So maybe that helps a little bit, and then next meeting you can ask the next question, like, okay, this worked really well and you're doing a great job, teacher, let's try this little thing on top of that and it might be even better. But it stays tough. So I imagine it's really hard.
And I can't, like, the number, we support a lot of families who are trying to make that decision on whether or not to stay in public school here. Because one of my things that I do in my own consulting business is look at children's, we call them IEPs over here, individualized education plans. and pull out, hey, this is PDA, and this is how we need to support a PDAer. And it's not easy, because we do get that pushback from schools, right? And especially when a kiddo is in extreme burnout, I rarely see, I can't even think of one time where I've supported a family through this and the child was in such extreme burnout that it got better with them staying in school. Like it almost like 100% takes a break from school. So I can't even imagine having to navigate that in an educational system or a political system where it's mandatory to be at school. So I absolutely, my heart goes out to people who are having to work within that dynamic, because I'm blown away by what the fact that there's compulsive, you have to send them to school. And you're like, wow. My mind's blown today.
Yeah. So, both of my children are homeschooled, and I'm so thankful that I have that opportunity, that is an option for us, because school is that top challenge. It's that top thing that really taxes or drains the nervous system. And so for us, if we can just remove that learning environment and change it and have it at home, then for us it makes a lot of the other things more bearable, easy to accommodate, and easy to handle.
We can start healing the nervous system.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can talk about it, like I can start.
That's really what it's about, and I think
I just can't.
Yeah, it makes such a big difference, and it's also, I think, probably especially in Germany, but I think it's the same elsewhere, that sometimes I feel like this image of PDA is this terrible, air quotes, condition where people or children are positional all the time. They have meltdowns all the time. Everything is so hard and so problematic. That's the situation when you have this huge stressor, school, which is school for many of those children, and everything you do at home is just limiting the damage that is done during this huge part of the day.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
then of course you have to go no demands at home, and you have to deal with the meltdowns, and you have to
just to
eliminate
support,
all the boundaries just to
right,
make school
sure they can
accessible.
get to school.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm starting to get like, Heather, get off the soapbox. I'm trying. All right.
Heather, let's do our rapid fire questions.
Are we ready for rapid fire questions? Not a whole,
yes.
there's, I promise you, we're not going to put you on the spot. And you can say Pat. You can say
Okay.
Pat. You don't want to do it. Okay. Yeah, we have no demands here. In fact, we don't have to do this part, but we, all right.
Sounds exciting. So go ahead.
What is one myth about PDA you would like to retire forever?
That PDA children are naughty children, badly behaved.
Love it.
Yes.
What is one phrase that you wish you could have every parent hear on a hard day?
You're a great parent.
I love it. Mine would be, honestly, I see you and I can tell you're doing your best.
Right. Same message. Mm-hmm.
What is one small support that often helps more than people would expect?
Stop asking so many questions. So, not the parents, they should ask a lot of questions, but stop asking your child so many questions, because it's just, for many people, it's just an everyday way to communicate. Like, how was your day? What do you want for dinner? Blah, blah, blah. But just strew the stuff and communicate non-verbally or not at all, and let them come to you. Very easy accommodation, I think, helps a lot.
I love it. What does success look like for a PDA family?
Well, the sky's the limit, I would say. If you have a great relationship on equal terms with your child, and yeah, you kind of enter into this dance together where you figure out what's best for everyone, and yeah, you're in this situation where you yeah can like accommodate everyone in the family,
Hmm?
and yeah, that's I
Beautiful.
think where you want to get.
And last one, what is bringing you hope right now?
Um, I think bringing me hope is that, like, coming from the German speaking countries, but I see it everywhere that more and more people are like they know about PDA. And I
Hmm.
think that's the first step towards change, acknowledging that it's there and going from there.
We're
Um,
seeing that in our
yeah.
work too. Like we are getting
Hmm.
much a much more rounded, informed parent or even professional coming to us. So we're definitely seeing that over here. Okay, is there anything that you would like to say, you would like to add, you'd like to talk about that we didn't get to yet?
I think we covered a
We covered
lot of
a lot of
ground here in this conversation. So, yeah, nothing to add from my side. Yeah, it's been fun to talk to you. It's clear that you know what you're talking about.
we're fun
You're
people.
so so far ahead in that journey.
Right.
Like Journeys with PDA. It's really it's like a journey,
It
and
is.
you're learning something new all the time, and that makes it exciting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming in the next years. And I'm really excited also to kind of bridge our international communities. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
so far everybody is so focused on their own country and of course like own regulations and own circumstances, but like bridging these communities, and we all have the same issues, and it doesn't matter if you're in Germany or Switzerland or US, UK, elsewhere. I think it's great that there's this really growing movement that is bringing PDA to the forefront. And yeah, thinking about nervous systems in everybody, I think that's a
Hmm.
really important perspective to take. And I really want this to spread even wider.
Yes. Well, thank you for doing so much to spread this by not only having a PDA book in German, but making it then available international in English, and making this information that we all need wider and more accessible. And that, yeah, so thankful for that. Absolutely incredible. So yeah, we're gonna mention your book one more time. Heather and I were lucky enough to get a copy of your book. It's very user friendly, it's easy to read, it's easy to take in this information, which I really appreciate. You don't have to have some sort of like medical degree to be able to get it. And so I absolutely highly recommend it. So it's Parenting PDA. In our podcast description, we are going to share links so that people can find your book, and that they can learn more about you and what you do, and just what a incredible experience to be able to sit here from uh, Arizona and get to chat with somebody all the way over in Munich. And I love that we can come together this way over, this same really hard topic. And I'm so thankful for the work that you're doing and for connecting with us. So we're getting to grow our PDA community a little bit further, and that means a lot to us at Journeys with PDA. So we're very thankful for you and what you're doing.
Thank you so much for your kind words. It's really been a pleasure. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Like,
It was so fun meeting you.
yep.
Yeah.
And I hope we can continue it. I hope this is not a goodbye, but a continue. We will continue.
Yeah, let's do that. Of course.
Sounds
Yeah. And I
yep.
can network you with the German community. So
Ooh,
I think that would be an exciting
I'm gonna have to
exchange.
practice my German
Yeah. Yeah.
because my mom,
Jawohl.
my mom taught me.
Awesome. Yeah.
Right.
Next time in
Um,
German.
well, yeah, if only in bad words, though. If you would like to learn more about PDA or pathological demand avoidance, you can find us on our website at journeyswithpda.com. You can find us on Facebook, Journeys with PDA, and we're also on Instagram. And you can always email us as well, journeyswithpda@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to everybody next time.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.